Make a difference with AlJuhara Al-Suwaidi.
Hello there, beautiful people of Qatar. Welcome to an episode of Make a Difference, a QBS special feature during the Ramadan season where we highlight the many local social development organizations and entities, as well as their causes, their accomplishments, and finally, how you can get involved and help. I'm your host, AlJuhara Al-Suwaidi, and today we're talking about the Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar, AYCMQ. AYCMQ is a non-profit independent organization that focuses on policy assessment, research, and environmental action and education. Since its establishment in 2015, the Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar has been committed to enhancing environmental legislation, raising public awareness, and fostering local capacity building.
Make a difference.
For today's episode, I'm speaking to Neeshad Shafi, the co-founder of AYCMQ, about their household carbon footprint initiative as well as their Eco-Ramadan initiative. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Neeshad.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Can you explain to our listeners a little bit of the Arab Youth Climate Movement story? How did you guys get started as well as your mission?
Well, AYCM Qatar started as a youth initiative back in early days when climate change was in the topic, what we see today. So obviously it was a tough time to start with, but the idea was to build something called the bottom-up approach, community and youth-led awareness building in the state of Qatar.
Make a difference with AlJuhara Al-Suwaidi.
Now, what exactly is the Household Carbon Footprint Initiative?
So one of the projects what AYCM did in Qatar was Household Carbon Footprint Project, which is supported by the US Embassy, UNESCO, and many other partners. So this initiative basically looking at consumption-based carbon footprint of individuals. So we started this program in 2022, and idea was to build a community's own idea of what can I do for climate change. So we thought of targeting community to understand own footprint, and they make necessary changes in their day-to-day life to see that yes, there's an overwhelming question like what can I do in climate change? So big, it's so large, am I really part of the story? So that was the idea, to bring the community to an understanding that yes, you have a small role to play, and this is what we want to show you, and based on individual's footprint you can reduce it. The app was basically tracking your day-to-day activities. So it was a month data where we measure your data and it gives you a graphical representation, and if you want to continue, it will show how much difference you made in the previous month. It was quite an exciting project. We're still continuing in a small way, but when we had this mandate for a year and a half, we covered almost 250 schools in Qatar, covering 5,000 students and training 300 teachers. So it was one of its kind of project where people really don't talk about footprint. I might be also aware that Qatar's footprint is one of the highest in the world. So this is also to bring that sort of understanding to community that you all think of a climate change is so technical, where small bits where you can play looking at your daily activities. So that was all about carbon footprint project. Now moving to Eco-Ramadan initiative was an initiative we started also in 2022, where we wanted to broadly showcase Ramadan is beyond the spiritual side, is also looking at the environment side of green Ramadan, green iftar, and we brought together the community from all walks of society to join us for an open green Ramadan. It was hosted at Quranic Botanic Garden at Qatar Foundation. We were glad to have ambassadors from embassies joining along with their spouses to see what exactly Ramadan looks from a community's perspective, not just the same people of the faith, but also people outside the faith also see this. And we thought Ramadan was the best place to showcase how Quran and Islam and Hadith all talks about being humble, how Ramadan is all about not just food, but how you mindfully give it to the community, also a big part of that. Also, we were lucky last year when we hosted the event, we had one expert who came all the way from UK to talk about perspectives of climate and environment from an Islamic point of view. And it was quite an insight for people of different faiths joining us in the event. So we are planning to replicate that inshallah this Ramadan, but yeah, we will see how it goes.
Make a difference on QBS.
You mentioned when you talked about the household carbon footprint and how people see climate change as they always look at the bigger picture and kind of skip over the minor details. So can you tell us what are some small steps as a community we can take to reduce our carbon footprint in everyday life?
I mean, most of the part, when if you look at the individual's action, it's not of the use, but it's all of the overuse or overconsumption of those things. So when it comes to materials use, it's about food use, travel use. It's all come to our consensus that it has to be baked. People keep telling it's culturally appropriate, but the region has always been culturally very humble, and that's how it used to be in the past. But what we were trying to tell is that you can make daily differences by the food choices you make, the travel choices you do, and the amount of things you consume which are not necessary, looking at your fashion, shopping lists, etc. So what the program also looked into, looking at your plastic waste consumption, your consumption of non-vegetarian food options, so you see which item of your daily life make a big impact on the environment. So you can reduce that based on your own graphs which you receive over doing this program. So we didn't really want to tell people directly. We respect people's personal choices, but now you have a data to showcase your personal choices have an impact on environment and overall on climate. So after reviewing, you just multiply this with 3 million people living in Qatar, that to the Gulf, to the region, to the world. That's the impact you can measure in a larger context. So the idea was to showcase that when you talk about the huge mayhem of climate change and feeling yourself like, oh, I could have done something, what could I do? It's all in my government's hands. We said there is another perspective. There you are a big role to do, and there's no better way to showcase that than showcasing your footprint, and that can be replicated within your family, then your school, your university, your community. So that's the program really showcased, because it has like 20 questions targeting each activity sort of day to life.
Make a difference with Al-Juhara Al-Suwaidi.
Now, in implementing these initiatives, have you faced any challenges? If so, what was the biggest one?
I mean, with the carbon footprint initiative was greatly supported. A lot of carbon footprint app available, but this was done by a regional organization. Plus, it was consumption basis. It was not just footprint calculated overall, because some of the time when we do the calculations of emissions, you take every emission coming out of the country divided by what you do. That gives you a big number. That's why many of the times Qatar has been spotted as one of the biggest carbon footprint per capita in the world. To be frank, since the first launch of the program, a bit of people were stressed out. So we are trying to make it more easy way of using the app and do the measurement on an instant basis. But the problem with instant one is it does not give a right value, and you may not really appreciate, oh, that's a small number on my daily life. But we want to look at a monthly data where you have to store your data for a month, and then you get your right values of footprint, which gives you much a sense of how much impact you have on environment over the time, at least 30 days. So I think people are great to start with, and then they lose this enthusiasm to continue. And we felt that during our program, and that for me felt like a challenge. I think beyond that, our programs were always well received. We never would have came across any challenge as such, other than people's participation goes ups and down sometimes. Yeah.
Make a difference.
Now, lastly, how can our listeners get more information, and what are some ways that they can help the movement?
Well, we always look for new bloods to join us to support our initiatives. We have great project running for schools, university, for community at large. Whether you are a regular student, you are a work from home person, you are a regular employee as a company, all can join us. Our initiative is always looking for volunteers, so we were happy to be part of us. What we would love to see is we can connect through our social media, reach out to us through our email, or we can check our website. So we welcome all young, old, mid-age professionals, moms and dads, grannies, everybody can join us. We are trying to build as a community, and we think given that our expertise over the last many years being in Qatar, operating as an association, we think we have a lot of experience working with different stakeholders that can really help. We don't do just one program, we have multiple programs which are very much tailored for the community. So yeah, we invite everybody to join us.
Thank you again, Neeshad, for speaking to us today. You heard it right here on QBS Radio. You can log on to their official website, www.aycmqatar.org, or follow their Instagram page at AYCMQA for more information on how you can get involved in bettering our environment. I hope you found this episode to be as helpful as I have. May this Ramadan bring you prosperity and power to make a difference.
Building a brighter tomorrow right here at home. Join Al-Juhara Al-Suwaidi on Make a Difference this Ramadan as we spotlight inspiring local initiatives driving social development. Mondays and Wednesdays on QBS.